In recognizing the bicentennial of the War of 1812, it's important that we not only remember the events that occurred all those years ago, but the people who fought for our freedom. Today at St. Paul's Anglican Church in Fort Erie, Colonel James Kerby is being recognized through the federal government's Graveside Recognition Program. And what is the significance behind making Colonel James Kerby the first veteran to receive one of these plaques?
Well, he was a very prominent individual outside of the War of 1812 as far as his activities in Fort Erie. He was very well known, and we felt it was appropriate for him to be the first one, as he was a citizen of note anyway.
While the Graveside Recognition Program is a national project, it holds special significance to the Niagara region, being that the War of 1812 played a big role in forming our nation.
Well, you know, in Niagara, I think we've been fairly responsible at trying to recognize those that served and fell during the War of 1812 because it's so much of the history here. The idea behind the program was, in fact, communities that weren't directly related to the War of 1812 that would have had veterans buried in cemeteries, and an opportunity to make this a history lesson, to let young people understand and know what made this country happen. So it's a two-pronged project, one to recognize that individual, but also a history lesson for Canadians.
Justin Letourneau was in charge of researching Colonel Kerby and of preparing enough proof of his involvement in the War of 1812 to meet the federal guidelines required.
Well, it was kind of a little bit difficult to come through. I looked at a bunch of different cemeteries and tried to find the different graves in there. Some of them, the problems were you just didn't have enough information on certain individuals to fill out the application process. You do have to have some research to prove that they were in the War of 1812, where they served, what regiment they were part of, so it's a little bit more extensive, when they were born and died and so forth. And a lot of the graves, unfortunately, don't have a lot of that information for them. And also other cemeteries had a lot of recognition already to the graves of those who died during the War of 1812. The basic example is the Drummond Hill Cemetery, with a huge monument to those who served, died, and are still buried there from the Battle of Lundy's Lane and afterwards.
What can you tell me about Colonel James Kerby?
Well, Kerby was serving here during the War of 1812. He joined in the 2nd Lincoln Militia just before the outbreak of the war, served quite extensively throughout the War of 1812. At many different engagements, such as Battle of Frenchman's Creek, also the battle near Fort George, the capture of Fort Niagara, the Battle of Lundy's Lane, and the siege of Fort Erie. So he had some quite extensive military service here.
This is just one of many events that the Legacy Council has planned for the bicentennial. For information on others coming up, visit www.discover1812.com. In Fort Erie, reporting for The Source, I'm Mitchell Glass.